Okay, good day, everyone. My name is Kervin Mathurin, and the title of my presentation is Determining Energy Resolution from Inorganic Sources. This research would have been done at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. My mentor was Dr. Jojer Dinofo. The overall goal for this project is for UVI to build its own cube satellite. It's actually pretty amazing. And this CubeSat is basically a miniature burst cube. This miniature burst cube would be almost a smaller figure, a smaller device rather than the one you see towards the picture to the left, which will be called UVI grid. And this will aid in NASA's Fermi and the detection of short-term gamma ray bursts. What are short-term gamma ray bursts? Short-term gamma ray bursts are basically when you have two stars in a binary, two neutron stars in a binary, like the picture at the bottom left, colliding, creating a black hole, and emitting a massive amount of energy, gamma ray energy, in two opposite directions. So basically, see these two neutron stars, they spin around each other for millions of years, they collide and create a massive black hole. So these short-term gamma ray bursts happen all across the sky at various times, and it's hard with the limited amount of observational devices to detect every single last one of them. So the ultimate goal is to basically put more of these miniature satellites, which are cheaper, into the sky so that we can detect and observe more of these short-term gamma ray bursts. Before we can do this, we have to test our device, and this is done through the high altitude student payload, the high altitude student platform. It's actually a great program actually, which allows the testing of devices such as ours. And for our technology demonstration, UVI Great will mainly focus on the Crab Nebula. If you could remember, I mentioned in my first slide, on my second slide, that you basically have these two neutron stars colliding, creating a black hole and emitting this massive amount of gamma ray energy. With this animation, you can clearly see this. The purple ray or beam will represent the jet, the gamma ray jet, which is made up of gamma ray energy, and later turns on to the lower energy wavelengths. So I ask you to basically remember this purple beam for 30 seconds for me, please. So this purple beam will basically be comprised of gamma ray photons. And these gamma ray photons, which will be depicted to the figure to the left, basically have this gamma ray photon, and it basically collides with the crystal in the device. The crystals are in the little picture that you see, figure 2, in the orange area. And when this collision happens between the gamma ray photon and the crystal, the gamma ray photon basically imparts some of its energy or all of its energy to the valence electron in the atom of the crystal. And there are two possibilities when this happens. One, the photoelectric effect, where all the energy from the gamma ray photon is imparted to the electron, or two, Compton scattering, where some of the energy of the gamma ray photon is imparted to the valence electron in the atom. And this actually gives rise to some very interesting features in our graph. So when this photoelectron bounces around in the crystal, it basically emits photons of a lesser energy, and these lesser energy photons are then guided or exit the crystal to the SIPM array board, which is the figure to the right. The SIPM array board then takes one photon, turns it into an electron, and basically multiplies it to an almost incomprehensible amount of electrons, and those electrons hit a cathode and then are read out by a oscilloscope. So my project basically entails finding or analyzing the data for the calibration of this device. I have to create an algorithm for the data from the oscilloscope. Like I mentioned before, from the SIPM array board, basically have these electrons that hit the cathode and then are read by an oscilloscope. And this is basically what we would see. The figure to the left will basically be the raw data. We basically have these fluctuations, basically, and this represents the amount of electrons that hit the cathode. So I have to create a histogram and then create a fit for the histogram. One of the interesting features I mentioned was Compton scattering, and this is clearly explained here. For Compton scattering, you basically have the gamma ray photon, which will be the yellow squiggly line, basically coming into contact with the atom in the crystal, The valence electron is then basically, the valence electron basically gets some of the energy from the photon, and this amount of energy is determined by the scattering angle of the scattered photon. This is clearly seen, or can clearly be explained here, where I just decided, hey, this kind of be sort of difficult to imagine, so why don't I create a figure where I could basically graphically see this? So I started with an initial amount of 660 keV energy. And as you can see, as the scattering angle increase, the amount of energy that the scattered photon will have would basically decrease. And the maximum amount or the least amount of energy that the scattered photon has would be about 180 degrees scattering angle, which means that the most amount of energy will be given to the electron at an angle of about 180 degrees. And again, this is due to the fact of the law of the conservation of energy. And the figure to your right, which is basically a graph of different energies, arranging energies. And as you can see, with the constant scattering angle of 180 degrees, the amount of energy imparted to the electron would increase the larger the initial energy. So this right here is actually a histogram that I actually wanted to replicate. And you can see on my next slide that I actually got somewhere in doing this, but this is actually a perfect histogram that I actually wanted to replicate. Why? Because this shows two interesting features, the two interesting features that I mentioned. One, the photo peak, which can be seen here, the highest peak where the gamma ray photon basically dumps all of its energy into the electron. And right before that, we sort of this shoulder or this drop off right before the photo peak, which would be the result of Compton scattering, and you basically have the Compton edge feature. This right here was the histogram that I made from the algorithm that I created. And as you can see, it doesn't clearly look like the one in the previous picture. And the reason for this is because I didn't have as much data to work with as the one in the previous picture. With this specific source, cesium-137, the reason we use these sources is because we know that for each source has a different or a distinct gamma radioactive energy that defines that source. So after I fit these peaks with the Gaussian distribution, I should be able to see that amount of energy around the specific amount of gamma radioactive energy for that specific source. So going forward from here, I would have to fit these peaks. And to fit these peaks, this was my first attempt. My first attempt actually didn't work out well. The reason this happened because I created my algorithm to fit all the data, and the Gaussian distribution doesn't really work accurately like that. It works better when you limit the range. And this limited range is shown right here. As you can see, I fitted one of the peaks, and the source that you just saw was actually for bismuth, for the bismuth source, which actually almost has about 2 peaks. And the peak that I fitted was the highest peak around 0.58. So I took a fewer range of data points rather, and you could see that the Gaussian distribution fit looks way better than it did in the previous slide. So for my future work, I basically want to improve my algorithm so it can fit all the peaks for the different sources. I worked with a lot of sources, cesium-137, americium, cadmium, cobalt-60, just to name a few. I want to fit all those peaks. And then going forward, I actually want to compare what I did here with the simulations in the lab. Actually, one of the other students is working on the simulations in for the similar project, or the same project rather, and I want to compare my results with the simulated results. In summary, some things that I was successful at: I successfully created an algorithm that located all the peaks in the data. There was very distinctive or visible features like Compton's edge and the photoelectric peak or the photo peak. and I mastered or somewhat mastered my Gaussian fitting technique. Well, this is my presentation. Thank you very much.